All right, Sort of Sports Podcast, episode 89. We're coming out a day early today because we got March Madness. Super excited for March Madness. Cannot wait. This entire pod is just going to be me talking about NCAA basketball, men's and women's, and then I'll touch a little bit on what I've been watching lately, and then we'll be out of here. It's going to be a pretty quick one. It's kind of like those days when you'd go to class, whether it's high school or college, and the teacher at the beginning of the class period would be like, oh, this is what we're going to do today. And you're like, oh, that's not going to be that much. And then you legitimately would get done like 10 minutes early, and then you'd have 10 minutes to just like chill out if you were in high school, or like 10 minutes to leave, like just leave class 10 minutes early if you're in college. So that's how today's episode is going to be. And also because me and my buddies are going to dinner in a half hour, so I gotta kind of keep this moving. But anyways, let's get into the show. So biggest thing, I just absolutely love March Madness. I cannot wait. It is my favorite sport event. I know, because I'm a huge Super Bowl nut. Like, I love the Super Bowl. But honestly, March Madness is easily my favorite event. I still remember the first March Madness I got really into, which was the 2015 one with the Frank Kaminsky Wisconsin Badgers when they beat Kentucky in the Final Four. I thought that was the greatest thing of all time. My mother's always hated Kentucky, so it was really nice for me to like, because I was introduced to all these characters, and to me it's like Kentucky was introduced as an evil, and Wisconsin was heroes because they had Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker, and it was a fun team. And Frank Kaminsky, I made an NCAA 09, my NCAA basketball game I grew up playing, and he made him a 99 overall. He could shoot threes and dunk on anybody. He was actually like pretty much Nikola Jokic, but with 95 speed. That was it was if Nikola Jokic had the shooting of Curry and 99 speed. And I guess it was more athletic. So it wasn't even Nikola Jokic. It was like shorter Wemby, but with Curry shooting. That would be the best way to describe my NCAA 09 Frank Kaminsky. He was just absolutely nuts. I loved dropping like 40 a game with him in that game. And over the years, I've went back to that game, and I would always add like my favorite players from every tournament in it. So it's pretty fun. I even have, what's his face from Stephen F. Austin. He's like a 95 overall guard. I made him. He's elite. From that year, you guys remember the year Stephen F. Austin like went to like the Sweet 16? How many years ago? Goodness, that was a while ago. I think that was 2018. Stephen F. Austin run. That was it. That was a great run. I enjoyed that. It's a fun little run. What if I just look up Stephen F. Austin March Madness run? 2016. That was 2016. Oh my goodness. 2016. Wow. Okay. Oh, so there's a 14 seed. They upset number 8 ranked West Virginia, and then they lost in the second round. They didn't even make it to the Sweet 16. Goodness. Thomas Walkup. That was his name. I wonder what Thomas Walkup does now. He is currently playing EuroLeague. Yeah, that dude, I thought he was like the greatest player of all time. I actually bought a Stephen F. Austin shirt in, what would that have been, 5th grade? Yeah, it would have been 5th grade. So I was hyped for him. But yeah, I mean, the first tournament I remember filling out a bunch of brackets for was 2021, but the first tournament I got super into was 2015. And this year, I pretty much played it pretty safe with brackets. And by what, actually not my picks. Oh, goodness, no. We'll get to that in a moment. But as far as brackets go, I've had years where I've filled out like 40. This year, I've only filled out 4, and it was for, every single one of them is for a league I'm in. One's with my family, one's with a friend group, one's with another friend group. And then, well, technically I filled out 5 because I filled out one women's bracket with my mom and G. We made one. So technically 5 brackets, but 4 men's, 1 women's. I feel like women's, I'm pretty confident in my picks. I don't really think I could make a lot of different picks. Whereas men's, I feel like it's like me and my buddy were talking. You can just pretty much pick whoever you want. I feel like because of NIL and transfer portal, it's actually spread the talent more in college basketball. I've had people tell me they don't think I'm right. I think it's got to be, because ever since all that stuff came into play, we've been having crazier and crazier madnesses, and I'm here for it. I like it when Princeton randomly goes to the Sweet 16. I like it when St. Peter's goes to the Elite 8. I think that makes it way more fun than, the biggest Cinderella story being like, oh, they made it to the Sweet 16 and no one expected it. Now, granted, have we had Cinderella stories before this? Yeah, Loyola Chicago made the Final Four in 2018. We've had crazy stuff, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like we've really gotten to a high level of madness, and I really like that, and I think there's got to be a reason for it. And I think part of it is, too, that your most dominant players are going to Europe or they're doing Overtime Elite or something like that. And so because of that, your talent base is just a lot more close. Like, they're not as spread apart. The best player is closer in talent to mid-major school's best player. So I think that's also part of it. But regardless, we're in for an awesome madness. I don't have a single bracket that takes UConn because that's for babies. So let's go with some teams I like in my brackets. I like Drake a lot. I have, in my 4 men's brackets, I have Tennessee winning in 1, Drake winning in 1, and then my boys at NC State winning 2. So let's start off with Drake. First reason I like Drake, their first round matchup, they're a 10 seed. They won the conference that Indiana State is in. Still upset Indiana State did not make the tournament. If they were in it, I genuinely would have made at least one of these brackets with them winning. I was pretty upset about that. But in their first round matchup, Drake is going to play Washington State. Majority of people are taking Drake here. I agree. I think they're a good pick. And then after that, they play Iowa State or South Dakota State. I think 2 out of my 4 brackets have South Dakota State upsetting Iowa State. My big thing with Iowa State is all I keep reading is that defense wins championships. They're a really good defensive team. Well, they always say defense wins championships, but doesn't win first-round matchups. I don't know. So I'm going to take South Dakota State for a fun upset because I feel like there's going to be one 15 seed that wins. So in all my brackets, I have Western Kentucky winning, and then in some of them I have South Dakota State winning. I even have one where Long Beach State defeats Arizona because I'm like, we keep having these 15 seeds win. The only 15 seed I never give a nod to is St. Peter's because I really like this Tennessee team. But the thing I like about Drake, they've made the tournament a couple years back. Maybe it was last year. I'm not sure. But they've been making the tournament every once in a while lately, and they just feel like I read that they basically just couldn't miss against Indiana State when they played them in the Missouri Valley Championship game. Any team that wins like 28, 30 games, even though they played nobody, I'm like, ooh, might be a great upset pick. So that's why I took Drake. I do have one bracket where they win, but that is mostly because I just wanted to name my bracket the Drake League. Team I really like, another one is Tennessee. Dalton Connect, dude's a beast. That team legitimately can win the national title. If you wanted to pick a team that, gun to my head, if I had to pick a national championship, I would take Tennessee versus UNC. That brings me another team I really like. I think UNC, out of all the number ones, is the one I like the most. I think they got elite point guard play from R.J. Davis, and they have an elite post in Armando Bacot. And, I mean, goodness, what is there more to say about this? I think it's a really good North Carolina team. North Carolina is one of those programs that I don't like to really bet against. There's certain schools that I love to bet against. Thus, those are like Duke, Houston, Kentucky, Arizona. When it comes to schools I hate to bet against, it's Kansas, Gonzaga, and UNC. Those are really the main ones that I every time I bet against them, they always slap me in the face, and it's like, why did you do that? UConn is gonna show me what they're made of this year. I'm gonna see what I think of them this year. I gotta see how it goes. But yeah, UNC out of all the number 1 seeds, the one I like the most. I do have a bracket where they're in the Final Four. They beat UConn in the Final Four, and then they go on to face NC State in the championship, which, of course, my boys from NC State win. A lower seed I actually have in a national championship in one bracket is Nevada. I like this team a lot because everything I've read talks about how they just feel like a legitimate crazy offense. Let's go to them real quick. I'll read off some stuff. So they won 26 games. They didn't win the Mountain West regular season title, but they're really good. They just play really good offense. Now, granted, they're not the best defensively. That's what a lot of these teams I like to take for upsets are. Not the best defensively. But you know what? You just get an offensive barrage, and boom, all of a sudden, you're in the Final Four. That's my thought process. You just get hot at the right time. I really like Oregon. They're an 11 seed, but that team won the Pac-12. So, I'm pretty impressed by them. The biggest team they have to face before the Final Four is Tennessee. As you guys can tell, I'm not high on Purdue at all. I have Purdue losing in the first or second round in every one of my brackets. I just don't believe in that team. And then finally, my favorite team for this March Madness, my team I'm riding with is NC State. I know, Ryan, clearly they're your favorite. That's why you take them to win twice. Yeah, because here's the thing of March Madness. Odds are you're not going to get it right, so you might as well just have fun. Because you would rather be the guy who's like, hey, I did have that upset, than being the one that's like, oh, I thought about it, but I didn't go with it because I felt like I shouldn't. That's no fun. Have fun and pick some upsets. Now, granted, don't pick all the upsets. I pick definitely way too many. Not going to lie. But I enjoy it. NC State, my favorite because I got my boy DJ Burns. They just came off the ACC title. I just think this team's got fun vibes, and I love DJ Burns, so I can't wait for them to win the national championship. That's my squad, and they actually do make sense to me. Like, they're kind of like an even better Oregon in my mind, where it's like you just won the conference championship, you're really hot, you got great momentum, but now you have DJ Burns, which just makes them awesome. But yeah, UNC NC State Natty Championship, that'd be awesome. The state of North Carolina would be living, and the viewership, I think, would be great. It'd be really fun. All right, craziest upsets I've taken in my brackets. I have Vermont over Duke in 2 brackets. That's a 13 seed. Vermont taking down Duke. Then I have 15-seeded Long Beach State over 2 Arizona in 1 bracket. I have the 15-seed Western Kentucky taking out Marquette in 4 brackets. I have the 15-seed San Diego. Not San Diego. South Dakota State taking out Iowa State in 3 brackets. And I take James Madison over Wisconsin, the number 12 over the number 8, every bracket I have. All right, let's go over to the women's. So for my women's bracket, my final 4 is relatively safe, like when I think about it. Because women's, I just don't see as many upsets occurring. Women's bracket, we got, in my final 4, South Carolina versus number 6 Tennessee, and Iowa versus UConn. I take UConn to win against Iowa, South Carolina to beat Tennessee. Then I take UConn to win the whole thing. You guys know I'm a big Paige Bueckers fan. I think this would be their year to sneak up on people because people don't really expect them. They're the 3rd most picked team to win the national championship, but 37% of brackets on ESPN Tournament Challenge take South Carolina and 28 take Iowa. I just think they could kind of sneak up on people. 10% of people take Purdue for the men's, which I think they're all brain dead. Clearly they haven't watched basketball all year, and they just see that Zach Edey averages the most points. Almost 25 have taken UConn. That's nuts. And I feel like the men's tournament this year is going to be crazy. My big thing with UConn is, like, if the undefeated Gonzaga team didn't win the national championship, they went all the way there, had the Jalen Suggs buzzer beater and all that, I don't think this UConn team's going to cruise to one either. Like, they all act like it's such a done deal. I'm like, we see it every year. It's not. I don't understand why all these professional people are like, oh, well, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm super excited for the women's this year. It's going to be in Cleveland. A friend of mine were talking that we should try to go, but tickets actually are more expensive right now for the women's than they are the men's because women's basketball is in a really good spot right now. It's funny, I think, honestly. A friend of mine said, he's like, maybe Caitlin Clark's going to be the woman to save the WNBA. And I'm like, you're probably right. Like, if there's anybody that's going to do it, it's Caitlin Clark. Everybody loves Caitlin Clark. Well, not everybody loves. Everybody is entertained by Caitlin Clark. I should say that. She's got a lot of haters, but you can't deny she is, for my money, the greatest women's basketball player of all time. And just flat out one of the greatest college basketball players of all time, period. Men's or women's. It's been incredible. I think it would be really weird if she ends her career without a national championship, I got to admit. So I would be kind of sad to see that for her. But, I mean, sometimes it's how it goes. Yeah, I'm super excited for both. I think we are in for a great year of madness. And if you're going to question me on like why I don't take that many 1 seeds, look, it's called March Madness, not March Chalk. I'm just saying that's my point. It's always madness. You got to bet on the madness. So, yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait. All right. Let's move on to ramblings of reels and writings. See, I told you this would be quick. I have all my thoughts really organized. I'm really proud of myself. The big thing of ramblings, reels, and writings, I've been watching Smallville, and I haven't watched any more Shogun. I started Shogun. I should toss in one more thing about March Madness. I made a TikTok that's, I think, you would all enjoy. It's also on my YouTube shorts, so if you go to Ryan Klinger, It's got Shannon Sharp in it, and it plays Into Club by 50 Cent, and it's that video of Shannon Sharp like in a bunch of different suits, and it says, me saying I like them for an upset, knowing I've never watched them play basketball in my life. And that's kind of me with March Madness. Like, I've never watched Vermont even dribble a basketball this entire season. Never even seen a photo of them playing. But I take them over Duke every time just because I think it's fun. It's so funny to me. People will be like, Ryan, who do you like? And I'm like, oh, I really like James Madison over Wisconsin. I've never seen James Madison play basketball. Never seen it. But yeah, it's like everybody with McNeese right now. Everybody's like, oh, I like McNeese. You've never watched McNeese play basketball. Neither have I. I just think it's funny. We all do this collectively. I just think it's fun. I think McNeese is going to lose to Gonzaga. It's that upset that everybody's picked, like Charleston last year, and then it doesn't happen because it's like it was too predictable. That's my thing. I think Gonzaga will beat them. And I don't think Samford's going to beat Kansas either. I think both of them will win. It's a little too obvious. Everybody keeps saying those two, and I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Really hurts me because Meechie Johnson plays for South Carolina. And I love Meechie Johnson. But they play Oregon first round, so I had to take Oregon. I had to. I'm sorry. Really sorry, Meechie. Really sorry to do that to you. But anyways, back to Ramblings of Reels and Writings. Smallville is what I've been watching. I don't know if you guys remember. I might have mentioned the podcast like last May, started watching it. And I really love it. I think Tom Welling nails Superman. Lana Lang, Kristen, I can't remember how to pronounce her last name, but she is so good as Lana Lang. I don't even know how this show is going to sell me the Lois Lane romance because I just think Lana's perfect for him. But Michael Rosenbaum is the best Lex Luthor I've seen in live action by far. He absolutely nails Lex Luthor because I love him. I think he's great. And, you're supposed to kind of like Lex. He's supposed to be uber charismatic. I think that's what a lot of people miss. They just make him super evil. It's like, no, you need to kind of be like, oh, he's cool, but he's a bad guy. There's got to be a balance. But yeah, I'm starting to get to the point where I really can't say there's not a lot of good Superman adaptations out there because between this and Superman the Animated Series and the Justice League show, we kind of do have a decent amount of good Superman. And the Christopher Reeves movies, like, we actually do kind of have a lot of we kind of do have a lot of good Superman stuff. I gotta admit, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, I would recommend Smallville. I just think it's really good. It did. I don't know if I'll make a YouTube video on this or not. I've been thinking about it because there was a moment in it that was just so Superman. It was like such a perfect Superman moment. And I guess I'll share it on the podcast. If I end up making a little video on it, well, spoilers, you already knew what I was gonna say. But there's an episode where he loses his powers temporarily. And the first thing he does is him and his buddy go play basketball. And they lose. Like, it wasn't a blowout, but, like, they were playing 2v2. And they get beat, like kind of bad. I don't know. I got the idea. Like, they lost probably, like, 5 or 6, and they've played to 21. That was my thought process. And they're walking away, and Clark's just smiling ear to ear. And his buddy's like, Clark, what are you smiling about? We lost. He goes, I know. Ain't it great? And just keeps walking because he was just so happy that he got to play basketball, give his best effort, and lose. And he didn't have to hold back his strength, and he couldn't just win easily. Like, he loved the fact. It was just the most Superman thing ever. I'm like, that is Superman. That is exactly who he is. And that's what I think this show nails, is they really nail the character of Clark Kent. And I think it's a perfect Clark Kent representation because Clark Kent is a person. He is not just Superman hiding. Superman is a part of Clark Kent. Clark Kent's part of Superman. I think it's important to remember. I think some Superman adaptations forget, and they just want to make him a god, and that's not the case. He's a person. I think it's a Smallville really understands. And you guys know I also love. I'm soft on the high school comedy / drama, and that's exactly what it delivers on, while also being a great Superman show. So I mean, this show just hits like crack for me. It's like, oh man, I love it. I'm still like only in the first season because there's like 22 episodes a season, but oh man, I love it. I'm really upset when they go to Metropolis though, because like I love that it's in Smallville, and I know eventually it moves into Metropolis, and I'm like, no, I don't really want that, but it's all right. Anyways, super quick podcast. My goodness, I don't even think we're gonna hit the 20-minute mark. I just don't have a lot to say. I'm just super excited. If you guys want, I can read you my entire bracket, but I feel like I kind of gave you the gist. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't have that much to say right now. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot to say next week because I'm going to be doing nothing tomorrow night and Friday night but watching basketball. That's my only plans. I got all my homework situated away, so I'm just ready to watch basketball with my buddies. And then Saturday, going to go hang out with G. We're going to watch more March Madness. And Sunday, I'll be doing the same thing. So just constant March Madness watching is, I think honestly the second round is my favorite. The second round is probably my favorite because there's that's when you get like a good, like you're starting, it feels like the teams are like, right, that's where I feel like you get a lot of the upsets where it's like, oh, they weren't a fluke winning in the first round. Like they're legit good. It wasn't a fluke. Back-to-back wins is big. Or it's one of those where it's like a team gets an upset. Like the team was originally a higher seed than who they played first round, but second round you kind of expect them to lose and then they win. Like second round I feel like is my favorite round. It's so much fun. And then Elite Eight I always feel like is the spot that you lose the fun teams. I feel like the Elite Eight is like the rite of passage, which is how it should be because being the Final Four is a big damn deal. But I feel like the Elite Eight is like when you usually lose those really fun teams everybody's been enjoying. That's why I always blew me away Loyola Chicago made it to the Final Four. Because like St. Peter's went out in the Elite Eight. Arkansas last year, I think, went out in the Elite Eight. Kansas State went out last year in the Elite Eight. Like the Elite Eight is always where I feel like the teams that I've been loving go down. And then we get to the Final Four and I'm like, who am I going to root for? Final Four is also better than the Natty. There's very few times the national championship is as fun as the Final Four. I don't know what it is about the Final Four, but I just love the Final Four. I don't know. Granted, though, the national championship has resulted in what I truly believe is the greatest basketball shot of all time, and that's the Chris Jenkins 3. I don't think there'll ever be a greater basketball shot. Because the thing is, I forget the guy for UNC. I would know his name if they would have won that game. He hits the crazy 3 to tie it up. And then Chris Jenkins gets it, obviously, to hit the game winner. And I'm like, I think, one game series, that's what makes March Madness so fun and crazy. And Chris Jenkins getting that, it was like every little kid's dream in their driveway. Game on the line, you hit a 3, an insanely deep 3 for the championship. And Chris Jenkins did that in real life. I think the only way it could ever be topped is if a team was up by 1, other team comes down, makes a bucket, like a 3 or a 2, I don't care what. They get the ball, buzzer beater 3 for the win. For the national championship. That's the only way it could ever be topped. Because the only way it could ever be topped is if it wasn't a tied game. Because it was a tied game. Chris Jenkins hit it. But I don't know if they'll ever have that happen. I mean, that'll just be luck. I mean, eventually, probably. Eventually over time. If we're still doing March Madness in 100 years, maybe by that point we've gotten that moment. But it'll be a long time till that Chris Jenkins shot is beat. That's like the best shot, I think, in basketball history. So, a pretty special moment. What else? Is there anything else? Oh, I want to toss out my Grandpa Dick always says about March Madness, and I think this is a fun way to look at it. He said if you ran the tournament twice, you wouldn't get the same national champion, let alone the same Final Four. And I always think he's right. Like, I genuinely believe if we were in this tournament twice, every single team that makes the Final Four in this reality wouldn't make it in the next. And then you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure at least one of them would. I don't think so. Like, it is that wild and that crazy. If you ran it twice, there would be 8 teams that were in the Final Four out of both, which is just crazy to think about. And I think he's right. I mean, it's crazy. But tonight I'll probably be watching some of the first 4 games. Colorado plays tonight, and so I got a soft spot for them because obviously that's my team for football. As far as basketball goes, I don't really know if I don't really have. I guess Ohio State kind of. I keep an eye on them throughout the regular season, but you guys know I really only lock in for college basketball once March comes. So, sorry, it's the truth. I'm a toying with the idea of maybe. Well, I don't think I'm toying. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna really follow MAC football this fall, along with obviously the big stuff. But I think it'd be fun. Me and my buddies talking about watching the MAC games. They got MACtion on like weeknights this fall, so I think it'll be fun. All right, I think that's it from me. I can't wait for March Madness. You should fill out some brackets, have a good time, and take that upset that you think would be fun. Take Long Beach State. Take Vermont. Who's stopping you? And if you get made fun of by your coworkers, you're like, oh, I'm talking to the guy who picked UConn over Houston in the national championship game. So, boom, got him. All right, that's it from me. Thank you, and I will catch you all in the next one. I don't know what to really sign off this one with. Yeah, that's it. Bye, guys.